This conference
goals.
will now be recorded.
So let me quickly so CISO platform as a community, the reason why we created the community was with the vision that we create community goods. So we saw that when you go to DEF CON or Black Hat, especially say DEF CON, you see that there are all these hackers coming and sharing insights, knowledge, tools, techniques, which they have researched for last 2 years, 5 years, and they release that knowledge amongst all the other fellow hackers. But you go to a CISO conference, typically it is more of networking. So we saw that, I mean, quote unquote, like bad guys, they collaborate, but good guys network. So we thought probably as good guys, we should also collaborate, and we defined the vision of the community as creating community goods. So how do we create playbooks, frameworks, blueprint, tools, and share it with the defender community? That's the vision. So our vision is not networking. And of course, I mean, I always would love to catch up with you all, and we do that. I mean, many of you are friends, but then as a community, our goal had been that we build community goods. And as a part of that vision, when we do this roundtables also, our goal is how can we create something. So typically what we do is we, in this kind of discussion, we pick up a topic and then we we have some slides typically, but we start with empty slides and then build a playbook together. That's the typical format which we had been trying. But one challenge for online thing is like if I share the screen and we kind of start creating playbooks, we'll not be able to see each other. So what we'll do is today we will take the notes based on whatever output happens, and then we will create a playbook out of it and share it with everybody. So again, keeping in mind our community vision, our goal will be to discuss with all of you together and build a playbook which is meaningful, which you can take back with, and also we can share it with the larger community. So that's the broad idea. And today's goal is, or today's topic is around microsegmentation and how we can use microsegmentation. What could be some of the reference architecture or blueprints so that we can take something tangible. That's the high level goal. And interestingly, we have Dr. Avishai Wool. Dr. Wool is the CTO of AlgoSec, and also he's a professor. So he teaches. I mean, I don't know too many CTOs who are a professor at the same time. So I'm very excited because it kind of reminds me of my IIT days. I don't meet professors too often. So we have a very interesting combination of people, of practitioners, CISOs, professors, CTOs. So I'm very excited that we will have a very interesting conversation together, which will create something meaningful. So I'll kind of pause here, and it will be great to do a quick one round of introduction. So I'll start with myself. I'm Bikash Barai. I'm one of the co-founders of CISO platform and also Fire Compass. So
Hey, hi, I am Anuradha and I'm from AlgoSec Business Development based out of Mumbai. And good to have you all here.
Rajesh?
This is Amitabh. Sorry, I just.
No, go ahead. Yeah, Amitabh, it's fine. Yeah.
I'm Amitabh. I work for Siemens. I'm part of cybersecurity community. Thank you, Bikash, for having me.
Thanks. Rajesh, I'll just go with the way you all are placed in my screen. I think we are differently placed in each other's screen. So Rajesh, yeah.
Yeah, hello all. My name is Rajesh Kathuria. I work for Shimaru Entertainment Limited. I belong to the first generation of online managers in the country as far as the internet is concerned. Thank you.
Gulshan.
Hi, I'm Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So hi, Bikash and friends. Very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Gulshan Dalila. I work for ICICI Bank. So I used to handle the first layer of defense for ICICI Bank as a part of the security assignment. And now I have moved out of course, to a new role. Now I'm getting the COE for availability and the reliability. So that is the role I'm COE. Yeah.
Hi, Lopa.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
I'm Lopamutra Basu, Enterprise Security and Technology Risk Management professional from last 20 years. Nice to connect you all.
Thanks. Hi, Abhishek.
Hello, yes, so you already introduced me. So yes, Avishai Wool, I'm AlgoSec CTO and co-founder. I'm also a professor of computer engineering at Tel Aviv University. And if I can take a moment of free advertising that's unrelated to AlgoSec. So I co-authored a massive online course, a MOOC, last year. It's called Unlocking Information Security. And you can Google it. It's actually free, unless you want the certificate when you have to pay $150 to the platform. Teaches everything, all the basics that you need to know for understanding information security. Could be taken either with programming exercises or without, just for general understanding. It's the #1 MOOC online right now in all of cryptography, cybersecurity, and it's in the top 5 of all of computer science right now, among a few thousand MOOCs that are reviewed. This is peer reviews by students. Over 30,000 people have already taken it. I think the largest population came from India. The largest body of students are from India. So by all means, take a look, and if you enjoy that kind of stuff, you can study it as well. Thanks.
Yeah, and we'd love to. I would get in touch with you later. I think what you have done is very much aligned with our community vision, and I'll talk with you if there's some way by which we could we'd love to kind of go and see how our community could also access it. And it's great that you have made it free. I have actually seen the site just a while back, so
okay,
just half an hour back I saw that. That looked very interesting. Yes. Yes. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Yask. I am CISO Indian Oil, and because it is always a pleasure to be a part of the CISO platform group. In fact, I always come here rather than to contribute, more to learn. It's always an enriching session being a part of this group. Kudos to you and your team, and good to be here, man.
Thanks. We all learn. Rajiv, hi.
Hi, I'm Rajiv Nandwani. I am working with Boston Consulting Group, and I'm taking care of information security and physical security, and I'm the global head for business continuity.
Hi, Debojit.
I'm Debojit Mathur. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm from Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. I'm looking after the security and networking.
Great. Hi, Priya.
Hi everyone, my name is Priya Kanduri. I'm with Happiest Minds and I handle all the security services business for Happiest Minds.
Great. Hi, Balram.
Hey, hi. I'm audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So good afternoon, all, and hi. This is Balram. I head IT and information security for Bank of Baroda Finance. It's a credit card company. Nice to meet you all. And thanks, Vikas.
Thanks.
Again,
Thanks,
calling me.
Hi, Amitava.
Actually, I already had a session out of the way, so maybe I've already introduced myself. So nice to be here along with all these
you introduced first, right? Yeah. Hi, Vinit.
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Vineet. I'm working with MasterCard as Director Cybersecurity. Look forward from learning each one of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vineet. Hi, Apur.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apurva Singh, and I'm the Country Director for AlgoSec, and I have been with this organization for pretty much around 8 years now. So it looks like that I've just joined this organization, yesterday. A pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hi, Nitin.
Yeah, hi Vikash and good afternoon everyone. Myself Nitin, I'm working for Omega Healthcare and look after InfoSec and compliance.
Hi, hi Mikhal. I think Mikhal is on mute. We'll come back to Mikhal again. Hi Dilip.
Hey, good afternoon, Vikash. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dilip Panjwani. I head information security at LTI, and along with that, it's also IT governance that I take care of at LTI. I'm happy to be here, part of the session. Look forward to learning with everybody.
Good to see you back, Dilip. Hi, hi Sanjeevan.
Hey, hi Vikas. I hope all is well and all of my friends are in good health. I work for UTI Mutual Fund. I'm a CISO. I also take care of infrastructure. Thank you.
Great. So we have Vishwanath. Hi, hi Vishwanath. Hi Seema. We are doing a one-liner intro.
Yeah, because hi, sorry I was late. I got stuck with no power supply here.
So if you could do a one-liner intro, Seema, we just kind of are about to complete
Yeah,
the introduction.
hi, this
So
is
you're
Seema
on back.
Bangera. This is Seema Bangera. I have been a CISO for the last 16 years with a company called Teleperformance. I've just moved out of the CISO role in end of September.
Hi, hi, Mikhal. I think we missed you once.
Hi, my name is Michal, and I'm the marketing manager for the APAC region for AlgoSec.
Great. So did we miss anybody? Vishwanath, we missed, right? So Vishwanath, can you hear us? Okay, so we'll come back. I think we can't hear Vishwanath. So let's get started. So generally when we do it together in a room, we do it in a slightly different way. So I'll tell you how we thought of structuring today's conversation. So we thought of, as part one, discussing what are some of the key enterprise security challenges which we are facing. So that itself can be a topic which could probably run for a very, very long time. So we'll try to keep that short, pick up some of the really new type of challenges which we are facing, sharing some insights on that. And then we thought we'll discuss on microsegmentation. So understanding the various types of
Hello?
microsegmentation.
Can you hear me? Vishwanath
Yes,
here
yes,
from AlgoSec.
Yeah. Hi. So part one we'll discuss on the key challenges, and then part two we will discuss on microsegmentation, and then some of the use cases of microsegmentation. And then in the next part, we would like to discuss some of the reference architecture or some project blueprints. So making it a slightly more actionable, something which we can take back. And the goal will be that can we share some learning here in this forum together, so that suppose tomorrow if you are implementing this, can this discussion help you to avoid, suppose, a few mistakes? Can it help you to avoid a few mistakes? Can it help you to shorten the decision making cycle? So we want to share such kind of knowledge which can meaningfully help you in terms of making better decisions, faster decisions. So sharing some reference architectures or project blueprints could be something which is interesting. And also finally discussing a bit on the success and the failure factors. So we'll see how much time we have. So just to quickly summarize the key challenges, microsegmentation, about microsegmentation and the use cases, then project blueprints or some reference architecture, and end it with some success and failure factors. So that's the broad flow which we thought of. So before we get started, I just wanted to ask, any of you have any thoughts? You want us to add something or change the agenda a little bit, which you think can help to make this more meaningful? Any inputs on this?
I think it looks good, Vikas.
Yeah, even same for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sanjeevani. So
yes.
on the suppose your focus is on microsegmentation, because if you talk about security, it will go out in endless, because if the objective is on the microsegmentation, then more time should be focused on that. rather than you can talk on security so much. So we'll
Yeah,
get able to get
I
extract of
agree.
all those. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, sometimes what we do is we keep some like before you go to the gym and start doing heavy lifting, you sometimes do a little bit of lightweight cardio, right? So key challenges was that lightweight thing which opens up everybody and we kind of get ready for
Yeah.
the heavy lifting. But
Yeah. And
you're
so
absolutely right. I
yeah,
fully
sorry
agree
to
with
say that I have a hard stop at 4:30. Okay.
you. Okay,
I
no,
have
we
another
will.
ET
We started on
is
time.
waiting
We'll
for
end
me.
on time. Okay. No problem, no problem. Huh? So we'll start it on time. We'll try to close on time as well. Huh? So we'll keep the key challenges slightly short. So what we'll do is we want to discuss a little bit on some of the unique challenges which you are facing, especially in the current context of the way the industry has emerged over last 6-12 months, right? So any interesting new challenge that you want to highlight, which probably wasn't there before in a big way. So we don't want to talk of all the challenges, I mean, because there are just so many. Our life is full of challenges, right? So any of those key interesting new challenges which you are noticing right now, which probably wasn't there before, or wasn't prominent before. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that and then go to microsegmentation. I think that is a very valid point that will not kind of go too much into this. Anybody who wants to start?
Because I
Seema,
think
you
one
want
of
to?
Should
the
I?
problem which
Yeah,
we
so go ahead,
faced.
Seema. Yeah, I think
Okay.
somebody else was also there. But Seema, you can start. I could not
Yeah,
see who
so
was the other person.
typically,
Was it Rajiv or not? Huh. But after Seema, yeah, go ahead, please.
okay, typically I would share challenges that were faced by the organization where I was employed. So typically it happened when there was merger acquisition of the two companies, and that was the time when the networks were hybrid, the technologies were hybrid, and with such hybrid and varied network architectures, there was a requirement to do microsegmentation.
Okay. So managing like hybrid infrastructure, you are saying like this is a kind of serious challenge, right?
Yeah.
Great, great.
Because similarly, hello.
Yes, yes, Gulshan.
So similarly, in this present pandemic, this work from home culture which has started, that has, given rise to the new challenges, whether it was networking or the microsegmentation, because you have to ensure that the applications, because you don't expect that much bandwidth at homes, which you have available in the your offices or the corporates, and your application should work seamlessly because if industry like banking, it has to give the seamless service. So then all the operations were also working, other than the branch people, everybody else was made to work from the home. So operations team role becomes very crucial. Corporate center still you can wait for some time because it's more of a mail than the other communication channels are available. But for the operations where applications are involved, so those are the challenges which are faced, which are new and absolutely relevant to most of the organizations which work from home. Because most of the organizations they use one of the other video uh, appliance, Citrix or something like that, the VDI interface which they use, so that applications can be accessed securely from home or using some VPN kind of a secured VPN kind of a network. So those were the recent challenges which organizations face, which are unprecedented and never there before.
Sanjeevan
And
here.
also
Quickly, I
secure
just
access from anywhere and
Sanjeevan here. Sanjeevan here. Quickly, I just
Hello.
wanted to Sanjeevan
Yes.
here. Quickly, I
Yes,
wanted
Sanjeev.
to regulators like RBI was always on toes, and last 7-8 years they are coming out with a lot of policies and regulations for for banking sector. All the regulators now woke up, may be it SEBI, now insurance also. Recently, now the regulators have came out with a policy that you should have a stringent control over privileged users. Who are these privileged users? The administrators, the network administrators, the server administrators. And what happens is that when they are carrying out this activity, sometimes the entire horizon of a data center is with them, right? So they can jump here and there. Now, how do you restrict, to them and have a control around them? And there is where the microsegment is going to come. Okay, that is one of the aspects, not entirely, but because the regulators are now forcing, they're not saying directly you put a microsegmentation, but the requirement and the compliance and the control is enforcing to have a microsegmentation. Okay, that's what I want to.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I don't know if
Hello.
Rajiv was trying to say something before. Rajiv, were you trying to say something in the beginning when Seema was saying?
Yeah. So because one of the main problems which we are these days facing is about data residency. So in some of the countries, since all this lockdown and everything started, they are saying that the data should reside in their country. I mean, that is a very specific thing which came from, say, Germany, China, and some of these type of countries which are persisting that data should not be moving out of their country. I mean, with India also, the PDP which is coming up as a bill, I mean, it is still not passed, but then that is one of the challenges which is coming up.
Yeah, and privacy operations, I think, is a kind of unsolved challenge, and it's a new thing. We may see some new kind of market segment coming up for privacy ops, managing privacy ops.
That is correct.
And Balram, you were telling something?
Yes. So just I will go ahead what the Mr. Gulshan was saying. So we belongs to that BFSI segment and highly regulated by that RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So the first things which I have seen the practical experience, although we have implemented work from home scenario, all kind of VDI and the tools and technology which is available in the market. However, we face challenges. The company and organizations which having very legacy applications which work on more than Windows XP, Windows 7 machines. So we face challenges even providing the VDI access from work from home scenario. Number one. Number two, I am seeing the recently due to the pandemic that organization has started to doing video KYC for verifications purpose. Whereas just I was having a very big debate yesterday, 2 days back with the RBI fellow also. If the organization is having 50,000, 30,000, 20,000 kind of people who requires to do the video KYC kind of things, and they are saying that on-roll employee only has to verify this. So people like where that that number of application is increasing, 20,000 application is coming. How come any organization will put all that resource, onboarding resource, that in-house resource to verify that? And I don't see that any differences either. This is being done by that in-house resource or external resource. So that is the two challenges we have faced, and legacy application still is a challenge. Whatever tools and technology exist in the market, still accessing those applications from work from home scenario, I see a still challenge.
Okay, great. Thanks, Balram. So what we'll do is as we discussed, we'll keep this part short and spend more time on the microsegmentation. So let's get into microsegmentation. Can somebody at a high level? Yes, somebody.
I would like to add.
So I will tell something on the micro segmentations because I have received here. So micro segmentation is not a new word, although I can say it's existing in world also. So earlier we used to do all kind of segmentations for the north and south traffic, and nowadays the micro segmentation, as and when the software defined networking in data centers and everywhere has taken place, and like people are talking about the containerization, serverless computing approach, and zero trust network architecture, and that micro segmentation is taking place for in data center for east and west traffic. So we can how big we can that segmentize, so that if there is any vulnerability who is getting exploited, we can be safe from other segments as well. So as I believe that is the micro segmentation definitions so far I understand.
Yeah. So Balaram, I think you did a great summary. Huh? So the segmentation versus micro segmentation, that was a good explanation. And anybody wants to add anything on micro segmentation, and then what we'll do is we'll get into the use cases. I think the use cases part will be interesting. So micro segmentation as a concept could be applied in many different ways, and what are the use cases, which all areas can we implement?
So
While we are strengthening the perimeter, internal land, so assets internally on the micro segment, the attack surface area within that is more exposed as compared to the perimeter segment of the complete land.
Vikas.
So by
Yes, Seema, you want to add anything else? Then we'll go to Debojit, huh?
Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay. Hi.
Micro segmentation, I have done from 2019 around 3,000 workload. That means projects. It's a huge. And micro segmentation is not for the only limited to the this SD-WAN or something like that. It is basically segmentation of the entire network, entire domain, the servers, MZ section, whatever the servers are there. For example, our around 13,000 people are working from home, and around 3,500 stores are online. Madura, Van Heusen, Peter England, then Pantaloons. So we have a very difficulties because stores has to be open. You cannot work from home for the stores. The people have to go to the store. So that case, micro segmentation, what we have done in a different way. We have done it with the SDP, software defined perimeter. We have done the entire thing, and entire MZ, DMZ section in all the servers are now migrated. Around 400 servers I have done, and 3,500 endpoints are micro segmented with SDP. So one is that network side, that is SD-WAN, that is with there. You can make a split network. Today's date, the consolidated network concept is going out because today we are working from home. If you see, the next thing is coming as work near to your home. The next concept is coming, work near to your home. That means the big offices will slowly collapse. The small segment of office will come, and people will work from home, and they will go to that design cases for us, for various official financial cases, etc., legal cases. They may go to the office once in a week, twice in a week, thrice in a week, like that. And small segment of the office, just like in the telecom sector, you are getting a BTS, base station. So this kind of base station will come up across India, across the world, and everybody will go there in time, 3 hours, 4 hours. They will come into our home and they will work from home. Because the COVID-19 has teaches us that it is possible to work from home for 10 hours, 12 hours, 11 hours, 14 hours, whatever it may be. So that is the micro segmentation apart from the technology.
That's an interesting take on.
Debojit sir has explained a very good. I think he spoke very well from the customer perspective.
Think into holistic way, big office, micro segmentation, small office.
I like this idea a lot. I think
allow me technically to speak on this. What Debojit sir has
the guys who manages the properties, they may not be very impressed with this description. Yeah.
Basically, for that reason, the cost-effective solution is the SDP, because I have done a very small cost, very small cost. And the SDP is so beautiful
we have also,
that it doesn't need any firewall. It has got a dynamic firewalling system. It has got an SPS system. It has got, I will tell separate. I have also, is because I have already told in one of your session, and I was awarded in Times of India, Indian Express, in Mint, all the Economic Times for this speeches in 2019.
Yes,
okay. Debojit, we'd love to get into this a little bit deeper. We'll discuss this deeper in the blueprint section. So let's do one thing. We'll come back to Sanjeevan wanted to add something
I'll just,
from the
for
technology
everybody's
side of it, and
understanding,
then we'll come back to Amitava. Huh? Okay, yes,
let me
Sanjeevan.
put in very technically. Okay. So I always say that when the firewall segmentation end or the network segmentation end, the micro segmentation starts.
Yes.
Because do you agree with me?
No, I do not.
So, okay, I'll explain.
Okay, okay, we'll let
What
Sanjeevan
happens?
explain. Then we'll come back to Seema. Huh?
Yeah.
So Amitava, you have to
what
wait.
happens?
Yes,
Seema,
Sanjeevan,
so
go ahead.
what happens is when you segment, for example, I am taking an example just to now explain to you. So you have a DMZ, right? You have segmented a complete DMZ. Okay. And Mr. Deboshit sir has said that he has a various segments of the servers, like one for retail and this. And this both the administrators are different, right? Now I don't want this retail one to go into wholesale, and both the servers are running on the DMZ. Tell me what is the way out you will not allow the retail administrator to move on and to take the control of the wholesale administrator server. There is no control there. There the micro segmentation starts. Okay, and that is called micro level firewalling. So this is now not only the regulators have understood this, but the regulators are enforcing this control, and they are sending the technical auditors to verify. And we have done this. So in the blueprint, we'll explain how we have done that. Okay.
Great. So Sanjeevan will come back to you again for the blueprint when we discuss the blueprints and also Debojit. Seema wanted to add something.
So yeah, I did not agree only to the statement made where the firewall segmentation, perimeter firewall segmentation ends, there the micro segmentation starts, because the objective of how both are protecting, one is south north south traffic and the other is east west traffic, so both are independent and they need to coexist, and there's no dependency of both these traffics on each other. So they need to be there coexisting. That is what I believe.
So Seema agrees with Sanjeevan, but would love to have probably expressed this statement in a different way, more language level.
But
Is that
both
right,
segmentation and micro segmentation
Correct.
will take place only on the firewall only. Correct. Rather it's a north or south traffic or east west traffic. But all the segmentation supposed to be done on switch and firewall level only. Rather exist on perimeter or core layer.
So we'll have to get into this a little bit deeper. So Avishai, will come back to you. I'm actually we'll come back to Avishai and would like to take his viewpoints on this. Yes, anybody else wants to add anything on this? We're having some interesting discussions.
I just wanted to add what was being discussed. Microsegmentation as a concept is not new. When we are probably using it, or maybe already adapted in different names and versions. Typically, in the organization where I work, we use terminologies like resource islands. We use terminologies, even Mullah of us have already adopted concepts called zero-touch network. So there are various
zero trust.
Zero trust.
Zero trust. I'm sorry, zero trust.
Zero
there
trust.
Are various ways of adapting some forms of microsegmentation in English. So we are already doing it, maybe either in a very exhaustive way, or maybe we have just initiated, as Debojit I mentioned, he's doing it since 2019. So it's not new concept. So let's see how we can further explore and come up with some more concrete, some kind of framework for this as a part of your blueprint. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'll be great taking Avishai's input on. So Avishai, if you could help us with the evolution of microsegmentation as a concept. See, microsegmentation as a concept in computer science is several decades old. It was there in a completely different realm, and probably microsegmentation came up at a enterprise layer at a much later stage for a specific few use cases, huh? But then as a concept, it is there, it was there in different ways, but the application of it, the engineering of it, making it scalable and applicable for specific use cases has happened in recent times. And then this concept is also getting extended and is going to probably get extended into many more things than the way it is there today, because microsegmentation as a concept is very powerful, right? It kind of prevents lateral movement, creates those, I mean, helps you to secure things at a slightly, I mean, more granular level. I'm purposely keeping it abstract. I purposely did not use the word east west and north south, because then you can't use a microsegmentation as a concept outside of network. Maybe we'll use it even outside of networks, who knows. So it'll be great if Avishai, you could speak on the evolution of microsegmentation a little bit, how it came, a little bit on the history of that, and also what do you think, I'm very curious about this, like what do you think microsegmentation would be 5 years, 10 years down the line? And I'm generally very curious about this question, and I know in your role you probably think of the future every day, right? So it'll be great to know a little bit about the past and future both together, huh? On microsegmentation.
Okay, so like you said, and I think some of the attendees also mentioned, microsegmentation is not new. It's been around for decades, and it's a matter of degree, and it's become more popular these days. But the idea that you want to segmentize your network into smaller and smaller segments and put filtering technology between these segments has been around probably for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. Most recently, analysts have been pushing for the name Zero Trust, which was also mentioned. It's all pretty much the same thing. So philosophically, you want to take your network and not treat it as a big, flat, open thing, but break it up into compartments and put filtering technologies between every two compartments, so that if something bad happens in one of the compartments, it doesn't propagate laterally to the other compartments, similarly to what shipbuilders have been doing for centuries, of putting walls inside the ship, so if you have a hole in the ship, the ship doesn't immediately sink. What has changed over the last few years, I would say, is two things. First is the threat landscape. So what are we worried about? And people have mentioned rather interesting things on this conversation, starting from mergers and acquisitions that Seema mentioned, working from home that we've all seen during the COVID pandemic over the last year, regulatory requirements coming from all kinds of regulators in different industries, and dealing with legacy machines. So all these things are valid. I want to add another thing to the mix here, which maybe hasn't been raised, but is in the background, I think, in all of our minds, and that's ransomware. Ransomware is probably the biggest growing industry in the malware environment, and attacks are very, very common. In fact, I saw an interview with somebody that, an analyst that said that in India, something like 50% of organizations have reported being subject to a ransomware attack, which I find to be so large, such a large percentage that I suspected the numbers were inflated, but very large numbers. And one of the ways to combat ransomware is to actually use microsegmentation. If you organize your network into small segments and you put filtering technology between them, then ransomware that attacks, your customer-facing employee segment, if somebody or somebody's home gets ransomware infected, it doesn't necessarily transfer itself so easily into your critical servers. So that's another motivation. The second thing that has changed over the last, let's say, 10 years is the fact that technology is evolved so that microsegmentation is actually easier to do. It's not easy, but it's easier to do than it used to be. Because when all we had at our disposal were firewalls, organizations were able to do relatively coarse-grained segmentation. You can break up your network into, I don't know, 10, 20 segments, big segments, maybe based on business unit, based on geography, things like that. But as Vinit was saying, that microsegmentation is really something that you need to worry about inside your data center. Putting firewalls inside the data centers was difficult. It's a lot of work. It's changing configurations in massive ways. It's hard. What has happened in the last, let's say, decade is that we now have software-defined data centers. Everybody's using either a VMware platform to run virtual machines, or something like Cisco ACI to run their network, or if you're working in the cloud, in Amazon, in AWS, all of these private cloud and public cloud vendors have filtering capabilities baked into the fabric. You don't have to deploy anything, just have to activate it. If you're using Amazon or Azure, you're already paying for it. You already own the technology that allows you to filter, and potentially you could deploy filters in the network, in the virtual network, at the granularity of an individual computer. You could associate what is called a security group to one computer, or to 5 VMs, or you could segmentize at any granularity that you care to choose. So it's possible. It used to be close to impossible, and now it is possible. So now I think the next challenge that I suggest maybe you think about if you haven't is assuming that it can be done, how can I actually use this wonderful new technology? And here there are some challenges that we need to worry about, and I'd like to highlight 2 of them. Okay, one challenge is to properly deploy microsegmented architecture. You're going to have to write rules that say what is allowed. So you break up you have a flat network that you've developed over years, decades, and it's running your business, and now you want to break it up into smaller segments and put filters inside there and write policy and say between my segment 1 and segment 2 what traffic is allowed. I have to write rules that say that all the business critical traffic is allowed. You have to write this policy. To do that, you have to know what is running there. What are the connections that support your business? You have to discover them. And I don't know how your organizations have done over the years, but organizations I've spoken to just don't know. They have not kept meticulous records, and they don't know. They have a data center. It's doing apparently good things. The business is working, so it's doing what it's supposed to do. But specifically, what traffic is allowed between these servers and these other servers, we don't know, and we don't even if we could deploy some kind of network filter, network sniffer, and get a list of all the connections between all the servers and all the ports and protocols, there's a massive question of the intent. Why is this connection there? What's it supporting? What is it good for? Do I need it? If I stop it, what will break? These questions are difficult, and this opens the door to what we call application discovery, where you start by deploying some kind of sniffing technology using, let's say, NetFlow or something easy like that. But then you have to apply analytics to aggregate and to organize all these sometimes millions of flows into fat aggregated flows that you can make sense of. I can share with you a story that a couple of months ago we were working with one of the large airlines in the US, which despite COVID-19, their networks are running, and they're losing a lot of money, but they still have to do things. And And they did this kind of discovery project where they wanted to find out what's running on their network. They deployed Cisco Tetration as a technology, and it produced hundreds of thousands of individual connections that were detected. And they tried to onboard that into any kind of filtering technology, and it broke because it's too much. And they couldn't understand what it's for and what it's doing. Then what AlgoSec was able to do is actually take these tens of thousands of individual connections and aggregate them into fat flows that you could put a label on and saying, this is my, I don't know, aircraft maintenance application number, so and so, that does something. And then you can think about it, and then you can decide how you segment around that. Everything that, all the servers that belong to that application, you could put in one segment and put a name on it, and then you know what you're talking about.
So Avishai, I had a question around that. I guess it is kind of related. That is, see, data discovery and data flow discovery is one of the things which, I mean, is probably, I don't know, probably an unsolved challenge. As an industry, we probably haven't figured that out. And what's your thought that if we are not able to do proper data discovery and proper data flow discovery, can we do proper microsegmentation? Or where are we on this? Maybe if you can also touch upon this data discovery and data flow part.
I would say that it's a matter of degree. So you're saying it's you said, and I would quote back to you, proper data flow discovery.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your definition of where does proper begin. And no, I'm serious.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's fuzzy, right? It's a fuzzy, I mean, state. I mean, it's not
a fuzzy statement. And your position that, okay, we as an industry have been unable to do proper data flow discovery is
automatically using products and technology.
So at one extreme, we've been able to do data flow discovery perfectly accurately. You can get a list of all the connections going through your data center, and you can fill your disk with individual flows, and you have a full record, except that you don't understand what it's for. So the question is how you can automatically aggregate that into big chunks that you can ask questions about. And here there are technologies that can help. So you can, let's say, as an example, if you see a connection from A to B, and then you see a connection 5 microseconds later from B to C, then you can say, okay, it's likely that A, B, and C all sort of belong to the same thing because there's timing causality. Or if you see connections from A to B, from A to C, from A to D, from A to F, then probably all of these are doing something together because they all share the same endpoint. So you can do things like that, and then you can get a chunk and you can get a picture and say, okay, these things seem to be connected in this way, and then go to your expert and say, well, look at this. Can you give this a name? What is this? Don't give me a name for each connection. Here's 1,000 connections, but they're connected in this pattern. Does this make sense to you? What is this? And oh yeah, of course I know what this is. This is my thing number 2, and that's its name, and it belongs to business unit so and so, and now I understand. So is this proper? Well, it's a lot better than nothing.
It's better than nothing.
Is it perfect? Yeah, no, but it uses your human resources in a more respectful way. You don't tell somebody, oh, you know, here's 10,000 things, go tell me what they are. No, sorry, I don't know how. Well, maybe in India you can get 10,000 people to do it, but it's not practical for humans. But if you give them, you know, one question, say, what is all of this? Does this make sense to you? You can get an answer. So bring it down.
And the
from
other
the
challenge, Avishai, I wanted to highlight, and maybe, I mean, since I know you are deep into it, so are there some ways to solve this problem? Like we frequently see, and I know many of the CISOs over here might be facing the same problem, that there could be a specific warehouse where the data is there, and the CISO team is not even aware of it. And we will not even get the data flow analysis and things like that, because that's not even part of the scope which was defined. So, or the data has been passed on to some other third party where some integration has happened sometime back and is no longer active right now, or maybe it is happening sometimes. So is there a kind of comprehensive approach to go and figure out this, like you mentioned about this application discovery, then data discovery, and then probably figuring out labeling it and defining it, and then you put the controls and microsegment, right? If that is the approach on this front, are there some ways by which people can handle this? Because I'm seeing this as a major kind of challenge which many of the CISOs are facing. And of course, I will also encourage many of you also to come up and ask any questions which you have, because Avishai is one of the probably best person in this field in the whole world. So Avishai, we would love to ask you a lot of questions.
I'm here at your disposal. This is fun. Ask away. So to your question, if you start on the endeavor of any kind of application discovery or microsegmentation planning project, you're going to discover things. And like you say, in your scenario where you have this black hole, this unknown data warehouse somewhere that people in the organization have deployed and the CISO team has no awareness of this. If you do an application discovery project, you're going to see it because that data warehouse is connected to some applications that are using it. And as long as one endpoint of the connections is in the scope of your discovery, you'll get the thread, and you start pulling on it and you say, okay, this is connecting to that. Is that, why are we seeing all these connections to somewhere that, as far as we know, is part of the internet? This thing outside of our network, it's connected to it. What is that? And you can ask, you could put a question mark and say, what is this? And once you pose the question, somebody will tell you, yes, well, we know what this is. Just last week, I was having a conversation. We did a webinar with an AlgoSec partner company called Guardicore, and they do a specific type of microsegmentation. And they get called in as part of ransomware events. So they get called in when somebody is infected with ransomware, and they get called them to help them deal with the situation. And as part of doing that, they deploy some kind of microsegmented system in the data center. And they said that just because they do this, all of a sudden they discover that some part of their network is connected out to the internet through some unsanctioned connection. It doesn't even go through the firewall. So there used to be no ability to filter that because somebody connected some campus to the network without proper documentation, let's call it politely. So you discover these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. So if it is a connected graph, you discover, but let's imagine you have a set of disconnected subgraphs or forests. So that's the kind of challenge which we are facing. Disconnected forests.
You know what? I don't believe that.
No, and this need not be, this need not necessarily, sorry.
Yes, Seema.
Go ahead, Seema.
This need not necessarily be a case where CISOs are not aware, but it could be a set of legacy applications and infrastructure that may not support the platform.
True. And then, if you have a legacy environment that doesn't support the platform, then you resort to protecting around it or protecting under it. So if it's an old legacy system running, I don't know, like one of the attendees said earlier, a Windows 7 based system, which, I don't know, it's running medical equipment and you cannot touch that because you're going to violate the warranty and start killing people. So if you run it in a VM, you can put filtering technology using VMware NSX under it. If you you can encapsulate it within old-fashioned firewall technology. It's great stuff. Why not use it? You can protect around it if you cannot protect inside it. And if you're using something like a cloud environment, you can protect individual hosts. even without installing agents inside the hosts. You can protect small collections of hosts without putting a segment, without putting a VNet, without putting a firewall there. You could use Amazon security groups under all of that. So there are, the technology has evolved to where you can actually do these things. The thing that you have to remember though, the thing that you have to remember though, when you microsegment, this is the second part of the challenge. Suppose you microsegment and now you have lots of small islands that are segmented. Now you have lots and lots of filtering rules that you have to manage. And you're creating work for the information security team to update all these microsegments whenever the networking connectivity requirements of applications change. You have to audit them, you have to control them, you have to deal with changes. All the applications change all the time. So creating lots of segments is creating a lot of work for the security operations staff for years to come. So you might need to balance that. On one hand, you want to be super secure and have very granular segments, thousands of tiny little segments, but then you have thousands of policies to worry about. And as a CISO, when the board comes to you and says, well, are we secure? Can you sign off that the network is protected? And you have to audit all of those tiny little security elements. You're creating a lot of work for yourselves. So there's a trade-off there that we need to remember when we're going into this.
Sanjeevan, you had a question, I guess, right?
Abhishek, thanks. Yeah, you have already hit the top. Okay, so what Bikash was saying was, the detached segments or the detached somewhere some application running and we don't know that, and this happens because of the shadow IT, and this is everywhere. You ask any CISO and ask how many applications you are running in the entire organization. Hardly you will get some who will say yes, 150, but he might not know there are some people, there are some one or two somewhere it is running and very difficult. But I'm coming to straight to the blueprint, Vikas and Avinash. So let me tell you what we have done, so everybody would understand. And we are coming from the BFS. I don't think in India anybody would have done that. So let me give a blueprint in front of you right away. Okay. So we have on the AWS public cloud. Okay. We created a virtual private cloud for our organization. There are 7 virtual private cloud, and each of these is in one security group. You can have one particular server running in each of these security group. I have put the complete VPC, while I also have some security group running some of the server. And this this requirement has come not from IT, not from security group. It is from the compliance and the security group. When the compliance says that, sir, this particular server has this risk, data risk, so I talk about the availability and confidentiality. When they say this, so I have to look from both the perspective, the availability and data. When it comes to data, I have to secure micro-segmentically. And that is how we created a security group within AWS. But there was one more threat, which Avishai wanted to put into this forum. There is a backdoor entry of AWS administrator on AWS. How we will protect that is a question. I don't want to answer that question, but it has to be taken care. Somewhere if somebody will call, I'll give you the blueprint exactly on the presentation, how we have achieved that by putting a complete VPC on the security group. Okay, so security group on the cloud is very, very, very important. You never know where will be the ransom attack. You never know when it will be a backdoor attack. And this security segmentation, where your firewall ends, where the firewall segmentation ends, the network segmentation ends, the security, the micro segmentation starts. You need to look from the availability as well as from the confidential perspective. That is the data confidential I'm talking about. And in BFSI, there is a huge requirement to secure your customer data. And if you don't do that, and if you don't put your due diligence, see, after all, everything is in the hands of God, I'm telling you. But with the due diligence, technology controls, you achieve your due diligence. And let somebody audit it and say, yes, this is right as of now. But I'm a technical person, I am a certified ethical hacker, but still I say that if anything happens, anything can happen, okay? But you prove your due diligence and let third party audit it. And they say right now, whatever technology you have, I think this is sufficient. Let them certify, okay? But if the ransomware attack has to happen, it will happen. It will go through your firewall, your file system, because it is shared always. So how you segment that, you know? So how you strategically lay your infrastructure securely, and taking entire organization, your compliance team, your security team, your IT team. Yeah.
So Avishai, you want to comment on that, or you want to add something more? I think Amitava wants to say something also.
Yeah. So Sanjeevan,
Okay, Amitava, you go ahead first. We'll come back to Avishai again, huh?
So Sanjeevan, I still didn't. I'm sorry if other have already understood. I still didn't understand what point you wanted to make when you were proposing a blueprint for microsegmentation. I mean, creating a security group is something which will add a layer of additional security to microsegmentation. Was that the point that you were trying to make, Sanjeevan?
Sanjeevan, you are on mute.
I can maybe answer.
Sorry. Amita, did you heard that Avishai was talking about security group on the cloud and all?
But you were trying to drive a point on the blueprint. Yeah. So I was just wondering if that blueprint is something, probably security group can be one of the enabler to the overall framework of the blueprint, so that we can probably further do a deep dive on that.
Yes.
Actually, it is specific to the organization, but as a general, anybody can explain. Even I have my blueprint with me. I can't disclose that, but yes, if sometimes, yeah, how to create it, how to control the access from backdoor. You have to secure also from the Amazon, right? And you have to have a visibility there. So he was also talking about something called your data flow, okay, with some tool. He spoke about Cisco. One tool he spoke about Cisco tool data flow. And so the question here is, yes, microsegmentation is a need of today, and tomorrow you will be enforced by the regulators that you need to achieve microsegmentation. Either you achieve through firewall, you achieve through software-defined network, or you achieve through any of the PIM tool or whatever. Okay, but we need to do that, and we started now.
So Sanjeevan probably has some blueprint which he did not share right now. I mean,
I can very confidential. It is, but sometime in a generic, I will design separately and I'll show. Okay, sometime.
And Avishai, it'll be great if you can share some of those blueprints, because I think you kind of did a great job in terms of explaining the concept of microsegmentation as well as the evolution, and then you were talking about the kind of approach, like if you go to an organization, how do you approach that, right? I mean, you talked about discovering the applications, the data, and from the flows, and then group it, and then you want to apply those rules, etc. So Avishai, do you want to continue and kind of help us understand that approach, and also in case you want to add some blueprint with that, huh?
So if I could put Sanjeevan's comments in context, answering what Amitav asked about. What Sanjeevan described was a particular way of instantiating a microsegmented architecture using, I suppose, the Amazon cloud, the filtering technology called security groups. This is a way to make microsegmented architectures enforced. You define your VPC. And then there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, somebody has not muted, so that is why there is a background noise. Can I request all the participants to be muted if not speaking, please?
Yeah, thank you. So the way I understood what Sanjeevan was saying is that they have a VPC, and the VPC has a security group associated with it. One security group is what I heard. And that security group enforces access to resources inside that VPC, into it and out of it. So that is a way of deploying microsegmentation. This is the way that organization chose to do it. You could do more. I mean, you can, even inside one VPC, you can have 2, 3, 17 different security groups that control access to aspects inside the VPC and have even smaller segments. So a segment is basically defined by where you put the policy and how you associate the policy. If you have a filtering policy that says, I want to allow connectivity of these protocols from here to there, and you deploy this policy to, let's say, all of your Windows 7 servers, then that is your segment. You have defined by that, you've defined your microsegment to be all my Windows 7 systems. That's a segment, and I have a uniform policy applied to all of these servers. So you can define, and you can get granular. You can say, oh, I want to define only my CentOS version 6 systems that are located in the Bangalore data center. That's my segment. And you can define it even further. You can say only the web servers, only the DNS servers, only the domain controllers. Each, you can make it as granular as you need. If you can define a rule of what constitutes that segment, and you can apply a security filtering technology such as an access control list or a security group or a VMware NSX rule, then that's your segment. It does not have to be bound strictly on subnet boundaries. You can have smaller than subnet boundaries segments.
So Avishai, I wanted to ask you a specific question and also probably ask others as well. That is, like, let's consider I want to implement microsegmentation. And since this is Thanksgiving, let's consider like I want to prepare roasted turkey. Now for roasted turkey, I definitely need turkey, right? Then probably I want to do some mashed potatoes, I need potatoes and some ingredients. So I need some ingredients, and then I need to do a sequence of activities which is going to produce me this dinner which I want to have for, say, Thanksgiving, right? So let's consider we want to have microsegmentation. Let me first ask Avishai, what are the ingredients that we should have? And the second is, what are the sequence of activities that I should do in order to prepare my turkey? So can you help in giving us this recipe, that here are these ingredients and these are the sequence of activities which we can do, which in other words can be like a blueprint. So we can go with Avishai first, and then we can come back to any of you who can tell how you would prepare your turkey.
Well, I would say your starting point is what we call a brownfield, right? You have a network. You're not creating a new one. You have something. So your first point really is to do application discovery, to understand what's connected to what and label it with some kind of broad intent. So what is all this doing? Once you have that, then you define your structure, you define your segments. You know, what are the,
so is it okay if I kind of ask you a few questions in between? Is it okay? So first you mentioned I should do the application discovery, and then I want to do some labeling, right? So for this application discovery, I guess there are certain tools available today, right?
Sure.
I may decide to do it even manually, but then there are tools, right? So what are these tools called? Because
Well,
that's my ingredient, right? So I want to kind of have that list of ingredients which we could have. Can you tell us a little bit what is this technology called?
Sorry, because to interrupt. Avishai will explain you from technically, but you should pull this question to us because how
We will come
in
to
the
you also.
business. Yeah, that is very important.
Yeah, because you all are cooking the turkey. I know. We'll come to you also. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll come to you. So Avishai, back to you. So what are these tools called?
Well, there are technologies for multiple companies that do the basic discovery. So you have your packet brokers. There's a whole array of companies that are packet brokers that provide statistics such as net flow feeds. Okay, so net flow is the standard. Lots of types of equipment emit net flow. This is your raw material. This is not digested yet. Then you have on top of that companies that have products that know how to aggregate and to provide some level of context. We've worked closely with Cisco with their titration product. There are also products from Guardicore. There's products from Illumio. There are others that provide context, some level of context, some level of metadata. Then, we at AlgoSec have a solution that takes a feed from any of these, either the raw material, the net flow, or the feedback coming in from titration or for Guardicore, and we organize that into business services, and we can create automatically a connectivity portal where you can see every business applications, what its connectivity requirements are. If we have time, I could show you a screenshot. So that's all preparation. Okay, then you define the next step, and this preparation has tremendous value in its own, just because you find out stuff that you need to know. Then the next step would be to define your segments. You say, okay, and this could be based on what the regulators tell you. So I don't know, all the credit card information has to be segregated away, or it could be organized by levels of access. So systems that people from home access, segments where you have computers that people touch with their hands, right? That people actually interact with. These are the computers that are most vulnerable for social engineering attacks. So you want to separate systems that are manipulated by people away from systems that are servers and just talk to other servers. Based on geography, based on business unit, based on, whatever comes to mind and makes sense in your organization. You organize, you figure out where the segment boundaries are going to be. And you need to think that every boundary that you define is going to require you to write policy. What is going to be allowed to cross that boundary? But if you did your proper discovery in the first place, then you're in good position to know what traffic is going to cross that boundary because you've mapped it out earlier.
And what is the deployment architecture of microsegmentation solution like you are mentioning? So high-level deployment.
You need to select technology, right? You need to say, okay, am I going to use Amazon security groups? Am I going to use my traditional firewalls? Am I going to use VMware NSX? Am I going to use ACI? Am I going to deploy agents inside my servers and use a solution to manage them? There's a technology choice that you need to make. There's several choices available.
And depending on whether it's a cloud, it's on-prem, or if it is a hybrid, the deployment changes, right? Deployment architecture will change.
It changes technically. It does not change philosophically.
Not philosophically.
You're doing the same thing, but you're using the tools that make sense to you. So it's a.
So Avishai, is it possible you could share us some architectures, deployment architecture diagrams like that? May not be now, but later on, I'd love to share that with our group, because that's something which is going to give us a blueprint, right? And you have kind of done this for, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of organizations. So can you give us some deployment architectures later on also is fine.
Sure. In fact, I authored like a little 5-step booklet, maybe 15 pages. We're walking through this. There's a PowerPoint presentation we can share. So sure, no problem. We have resources explaining all this in much more detail that I can talk about in the time.
That'll be great. We'd love to share it with everybody. So Avishai, anything else you want to add? I want to also ask others if they have some of their recipes.
So one tip that I have, once you figured what you want to do and now you're starting to do it, okay, what you're actually doing requires support from management, because what you're doing is you're going to start deploying filters that are going to block traffic. And once you do that, now developers that want to deploy a new version of their application will find out that things don't just work for them. They have to ask permission. They want to, the new version of the application wants connectivity from here to there. And yesterday it just worked, but now there's a micro-segmented zone there and it doesn't work, and the developer doesn't have authority to change it. So he has to file a change request and get permission and get somebody to do it for him. That's a big change organizationally. And to do something like that, you need to plan it from a people point of view. You have to plan this out. And there's the way I recommend doing it is to start gently by switching from just allow by default to allow by default but log, so that you can see all these extra connections pop up, and then start changing the default from allow to deny gradually until you're able to actually go from this learning mode to enforcement mode. When you go to enforcement mode, that's a big day. I like to call that D-Day. That's deny day. That's the day where by default, the traffic that used to be allowed is denied. That's a big day in the organization, because it transforms the way people work. They have to be ready for it, because it used to be that whatever they wanted just works. And after D-Day, all of a sudden, that's no longer the case. All of a sudden, you want something, you need to fill in the form and get permission.
That's a great strategy.
A lot of people. So you have to think about that.
So observe to then enforce. So we'll come to Amitabha once. So Avishai, that's a great strategy, and I think that will work greatly, not just in this context, but also for web application firewalls and many other contexts, right? That's a great strategy. So Amitabha wanted to say something. Sanjeevan also wanted to say something.
1 second, Amitabha, I have only 10 minutes left. I just wanted to one thought process, and then I'll be leaving. So Avishai, so everybody struggles, no? So somebody is wanting to deploy some web server or a database server and an app server. Is there a process documented? Ask anybody, or it is a judgmental call? Today I will tell you it's a judgmental call. Does anybody has a process saying the web server, okay, this is a checklist, you just do it, because that checklist consists of what? Compliance requirement, whether it's a jewel crown, what is the risk of that particular server or it's of a database, and then it goes into which segment it has to go, right? Now, for example, so we have this process defined. CISO is not required. They have to just tick this, and that will tell which segment it has to go, right? So it has got like it says, is that data encryption required? Data trace encryption required? Yes. Data in motion required? Yes. Access to internal employees, outside employees. So all this, there are a lot of checkbox. Okay. And then if it is a database, there's an additional checkbox. Okay. Is this a customer database? Is this a regulatory requirement to control? Okay. And the segmentation, what you're saying is when it comes to protecting your customer information, where there is a legal obligation, legal penalties, then you need to do that micro segmentation and your complete access controls to be monitored.
Sanjeevan, I wanted to ask you something. I know you have some blueprints. Probably you have some challenges in sharing that because of confidentiality, but it'll be great if you could share that by kind of obfuscating it in some manner or changing it appropriately. And we'd love to hear on that. And also let's hear from Amitava and a few others. I would love to hear also from others.
Actually, I just wanted to
microsegmentation strategies. Yes,
I just
Amitava.
wanted to extend what Avishai and even Sanjeevanan touched on that. I think one of the basic is to, first of all, I think Avishai mentioned about visibility of assets and applications which will be a qualified candidates. And then to even identify candidate, Sanjeevan touched on that topic. Probably, I'm just trying to give a very high level holistic approach. We can probably look into something called risk-based approach, which we knowingly, unknowingly do it. So Sanjeevan touched on crown jewels. It will be a kind of Herculean and probably never-ending story if we start implementing microsegment with a big bang approach. We will be it will be a design for failure. We cannot do it. We have to identify the candidates which qualifies, and then we can gradually grow. It can be probably some specific business critical applications, or say business critical geographical locations, or say something to do with process, or wherever our IPs are maybe concentrated. Based on that, we can identify those specific segments which can now be applied as a candidate for microsegmentation. That
So
can
that's
be
a
a
great
very
point,
high
Amitava.
level
You are
holistic.
saying that let's not go and try to implement microsegmentation for everything. Let us do the subset.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a
because
great
one
point. That's a
size
great
fits
strategy.
all. One size fits all is no more applicable. We cannot do it for every network, every piece of network that we have. If we consider BFSI sector, they might be having maybe 2,500 outlets in the country. Or one of my colleague in this call was from retail industries. They might have 5,000 outlets across the country. They cannot. It will be Herculean task and never-ending exercise. The project will start but never end. We can do it in a segmented way also. That was my I wanted to bring it this to the forum. That's all.
So do a microsegmentation of microsegmentation, microsegmented implementation. Okay, so let me also ask others. So we'd love to hear from others that what's some of your recipe or some of your secrets which you want to share, which could be a strategy, a tactic. Any of you on this, just like what Amitava shared, as well as Sanjeevan shared, Avishai shared. So any of you?
Sorry, because can you allow my screen to share just for a moment?
Yeah. So Sanjeevan, can we do one thing? I mean, unfortunately, you, me, Avishai, and Amitava, we kind of dominated the screen time. we want to give some screen time to others. So we would love to do what you want to share. We'd love to do. So please just be here, huh? We'll come back to you.
Before 4:30 hard call, I have to come out.
Okay. So let me just ask
Let him share,
others.
then we will continue. Let him share.
Just one thing before you start, let me just ask others, is it okay if we extend by 10 minutes? Because we want to hear from all of you. Huh? That's the idea. So can we
That's
extend
fine.
by 10
That's
minutes
fine.
or so?
Unfortunately,
Okay,
I also have a hard stop at 4:30. Sorry.
Okay. So for those who can stay back for 10 more minutes, please do, because we want to hear from you. Those who did not get the screen time, we would love to see you. Sanjeevan, yes, over to you.
Can you share? Allow me to share my screen? No,
I don't know how.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Sanjeevan. Yes. His blueprint.
So I actually hidden my company's name. Okay. So all these boxes, can you see? These are virtual private cloud defined into the security group. Okay. So the idea behind this is, under security group, I can only tell this particular people can come into it, but within the security group itself, there's a firewall deployed. So you can see DMZ app 1, DMZ app 2. See in the boxes. Can you see that? So I was giving an example that retail web server, wholesale web server has to be segmented and there has to be policy defined who should go in app 1 and who should go in app 2. Okay, so I have lot to share, but this is what I have designed. I personally designed along with Accenture. Okay, Accenture is not at all. I am very sorry to say, but anyways, okay.
Sure. So great. Thanks for sharing this. We'd love to probably have another. Maybe if you want to do one session sometime, for the community, it'll be great.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sanjeevan, for sharing this. I really appreciate it. So, anybody else who wants to share something?
Yeah. Hello.
Can
you hear me?
Yeah. Rajesh, right?
So Rajesh here. So I'd like to tell you that application discovery is no big deal today because all good firewalls, all standard firewalls already support that and tell you the applications are running on a network. So that is no longer information which is very difficult to get or to achieve. And they give you very nice reports on a regular basis in a real time, whichever way you want. So all good firewalls give you application discovery. So we know today that what kind of applications are running, including cloud-based applications. I'm talking about a media industry scenario. Okay. Second thing is what still eludes us is to how to detect on a network who's connected on which switch and what port. Unless we invest in a very expensive software, it's very difficult to figure it, or you keep a manual documentation, which always is a problem. So that also is a part of the segmentation, because on a network that people run, especially if you have a 500 plus computers, people do tend to do a VPN. At least 1 or 2 VPNs they do. If you have a production scenario, you'll definitely keep a VPN. If you have outsiders, you'll have keep. So as it is, microsegmentation is being done at that level also. But now I think what we're talking about is to make it much more granular. That becomes a very complex job and is really difficult to achieve. That's all I have to say. Copy?
Thanks, Rajesh. Anybody else?
Can I just respond to what Rajesh just said?
Yes, Abhishek.
That I agree that firewalls are superbly equipped to help in application discovery. However, there is one gap, and that is traffic that doesn't go through the firewall.
Yes.
So if you have a firewall protecting you from the internet or from your business partners, then you have excellent control there. But behind that firewall, you have a big flat network that you don't know what's in it. And that's where application discovery really shines, because there you don't have policy, you don't have a filtering technology, you don't know what's going on. That's the question mark in my mind.
Just to clarify, sorry to interrupt, just to clarify, if I have a bunch of end users who all want to use a shadow IT, I can definitely see them. I can see what's happening inside out very clearly. In fact, what doesn't work for us is when you have your own application, because that the firewall can't see, it can't understand thanks to the database limitations. So it will always tell you about the public applications. For example, application-based firewalls will tell you all kind of applications running on your network.
So Rajesh, there could be multiple scenarios where sometimes, I mean, what you are saying largely it should cover, but what Abhishek mentioned is a case where it will not be able to cover. There could be another case where imagine that a set of small team of developers decided to use a particular collaboration tool amongst that small group, and this entire group is working from home. So now you have an application which has got data of your organization that is not going through your firewall, and this is being used by a small group. So that kind of, there could be multiple such scenarios, but you are absolutely right. I mean, that's something, there are, majority of the cases can be covered by what you mentioned.
I'll tell you, all organizations who are asking users to work from home are enforcing VPNs. Very few organizations who may not be knowing, or for some strange reason, but all BFSI, everybody will be forcing VPNs and strong VPNs with AD authentications. In fact, they ensure that the end users are going always through the firewall. They'll never allow them to go direct. Never ever, including for the mails, everything. So they can then lock them out any point in time, and they're absolute control. They can't do anything. Any BFSI user will tell you that he's absolutely frustrated using his end computer.
Okay. Abhishek, you want to add anything? So let's thanks Rajesh. So we will thanks for pointing that out. Anybody else wants to talk about any of your blueprint in terms of adopting microsegmentation?
Not share, but I have a question because
Yes, Seema.
or the group. So while we understand microsegmentation within the network, there is, because of the pandemic, there are many organizations who directly adopted cloud strategies and then migrating over to cloud. But then that was so spontaneous and sporadic in nature that microsegmentation within the cloud environment may not have been there by design during the migration phase. So I would like to understand in a cloud environment, how could you address this, which could be an aftermath?
Well, you can do an application discovery in the cloud as well. At least from a technical background, cloud providers provide you with cloud. There's called flow logs or other representations of traffic that's going on there, so you can at least you have the beginning of a thread to pull on to understand what's communicating to what. You can define multiple security groups. You can if the applications were migrated to the cloud and no security was deployed to them, you can use various technologies to audit what you have there and recognize whether you have gaps. AlgoSec has such an offering called Cloudflow. It's exactly what it does. You connect it to your Amazon or your Azure estate, and it tells you if you have risks there, if you have things that are unused. It basically audits your security groups and tells you how you're doing. So there are technologies that help you. I'm not belittling the challenge. It's difficult, and if you have a legacy environment that was deployed using shadow IT without a lot of thought for security in advance, then now you have to work a lot harder to try to make sense of it all. But there are tools that help.
And are they a part of the cloud offering by the service providers, or those are third-party tools?
Well, the service providers give you the raw data. At least Amazon and Microsoft give you the raw data. It might cost you because you need storage, but it's available to you. It's basically a checkbox and a configuration away to get that. Getting analytics out of that and making sense of it in a higher level would usually require a third-party tool to help you make sense of the raw data that you're getting from the provider.
You will get billed for the downloads also.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody needs to make
Okay,
money.
thank you. Yeah, understand.
Great. I think this was a very interesting session. Thanks all of you for making it very interactive. I wished some other folks with whom we couldn't interact much, we could also engage them more, but all of you really contributed. Thanks for joining in. Especially thanks to Avishai. Avishai, would love to also have you as a part of the community from other perspectives, because it was great to hear that you are personally kind of contributing for the next generation by way of creating that security training and courses which you are sharing with the world. So we would love you to also share those with our community. That's really very exciting. So
I put the link on the chat right now for those of us who are still around. But absolutely, Bikash, if you want to extend this or talk about other things, happy to converse with you.
Thank you so much.
So thanks everybody. Thanks a lot.
Because thanks for having a wonderful session on a great topic.
Thank you, Seema. Great to see you after a long time. Thanks, Seema, Vishwanath. Thanks, Varun. Thanks, Devojit. Thanks, Apur, Mikhal. Thank you. Thanks, Rajesh, Anuradha, and thanks. Bye, Sheetal. Thank you, Abhishek. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.